Alexander that there are only two types of cells. Yes, only two types of cells. And these cells are the prokaryotic cells and the eukaryotic cells. Now, we can say that all the millions of living things on this planet are also divided into just two major groups. Two major groups, depending on this type of cells. Depending on these types of cells. English. Therefore, we can say that all the millions of living things can be prokaryotes, also can be referred to as prokaryotic organisms. And the other lot of organisms are the eukaryotes. Eukaryotes. I don't mind how you pronounce your word, but we are mainly interested on writing proper spellings. So I guess if you pay attention on the text on the screen, you'll follow the spelling from there. Eukaryotes can also be referred to as eukaryotic organisms. So cells are of two types and also gives us two types of organisms. In other words, all the organisms in the world can be grouped into two depending on the type of cells. Depending on the types of cells we have. Prokaryotic cells, eukaryotic cells. Prokaryotic cells, organisms that have them are called prokaryotes or prokaryotic organisms. For the case of eukaryotic cells, the organisms that have eukaryotic cells are called eukaryotes or eukaryotic organisms. Simple as that. So let us pay attention on each type of organisms that are on this planet. And we shall start with the prokaryotes. Yes, the prokaryotes. At this stage of life, you should be having some idea of prokaryotes. So what are these organisms? These are organisms that contain prokaryotic cells. Prokaryotic organisms are therefore prokaryotic cells, and they are all single-celled organisms, also referred to as unicellular organisms. Prokaryotic cells are cells which have no distinct nucleus, and their DNA material is not enclosed within the nuclear membrane. In other words, if you have an organelle, you have a cell, and those cells, their nucleus are not surrounded by a nuclear membrane, then you can say they do not have a nucleus. But the DNA is there. And we say DNA are found inside the nucleus. But now the nucleus is not enclosed within a nuclear membrane. Just by the fact that the DNA is not enclosed within a nuclear membrane is why we say they are prokaryotic cells. The DNA materials are not surrounded. They are just suspended freely within the cell. So by the fact that we have said DNA material is not enclosed within the nuclear membrane is enough for us to understand the meaning of not having a nucleus. So in other words, a nucleus is simply when the DNA is surrounded by a nuclear membrane, which are not seen in organisms known as prokaryotes. They are known as prokaryotes because they have prokaryotic cells. They are prokaryotic cells because their DNA is not surrounded by a nuclear membrane. Any other organelles are also not enclosed by a membrane. Well, we can continue by saying that the prokaryotic cells, where pro means before and karyo means nucleus. So when you say prokaryotic, you are talking about, you can say that before karyo, before the nucleus. Please, the nucleus only means DNA being surrounded by a nuclear membrane. So by we saying prokaryotic cells, it means the DNA by then in these organisms were not surrounded by the nuclear membrane. So from the word prokaryotic cells, we have two words: pro, meaning before. The second word in the word prokaryotic is karyo, which means nucleus. So when you say before and nucleus, it means before nucleus. They were the first forms of life on Earth. So organisms that were on this planet as pioneers, their DNA were not surrounded by a nuclear membrane, and so they are prokaryotes. The genetic material, DNA, in this cell is concentrated within a region called the nucleoid. But there is no membrane that separates this region from the rest of the cell. Therefore, prokaryotic cells are smaller and simpler. Examples of organisms with prokaryotic cells are bacteria, blue-green bacteria that are also known as cyanobacteria. So technically, when you say bacteria, you are talking about prokaryotes. Prokaryotes, yeah. So all that is said, we can now move on to another important content, and that is the structure of prokaryotic cells. The structure of prokaryotic cells. So, if you have to start with the studies about the structure of prokaryotic cells, we can start with the word like plasmids. Plasmids, if you look at the structure of a prokaryotic cell, you have to know that they contain genes. Plasmids contain genes for things like antibiotic resistance and can be passed between prokaryotes. Plasmids. Not the DNA. Forget about the DNA. This just shall continue from there. Can be passed, okay? Sorry for that small glitch. So as we say that prokaryotic cells have got what called plasmids, and plasmids contain genes for things like antibiotic resistance in these microorganisms. And they have the capacity of passing it from one generation of prokaryotes to another generation of prokaryotes. Plasmids are not always present in prokaryotic cells, but some prokaryotic cells have many of them. Yes, many of them. So plasmids are very important in these organisms, the prokaryotic cells or the prokaryotic organisms like bacteria. Then another important part that we need to pay attention on the structure of prokaryotic cells is the capsule. The capsule, some prokaryotes, such as bacteria, also have a capsule made up of secreted slime. It helps to protect bacteria from attack by cells of the immune system. That's if in case the bacteria is in the body, is in your body, and your body tries to fight it and destroy it, they are naturally covered by slime on their capsule, and so they survive your white blood cells. Another important part or organelle of a prokaryotic organism or a prokaryotic cell is the glycogen granules. The glycogen granules store carbohydrates for respiration. Yeah. Then another part should be storage membranes in a prokaryote. So storage membranes store food materials such as starch. You can hear the name storage membrane. So inside storage membrane of prokaryotes, starch are stored there. We also have lipid droplets, store lipids for respiration. Then of course, in some bacteria, we have chloroplasts for carrying out photosynthesis in some of these bacteria, especially cyanobacteria. Well, those about the structures about the prokaryotic cells, and we may have to now look at some of the important contents about cell theory, and I think we shall continue from here when we come back shortly. Thank you very much.